Welcome to the Writer Reads Mack and Me and Odyssey, Book 1, Mack and Me Origins, Chapter 29, Reanimation. We landed in the valley near the copse of trees where Bendigo and I had made our initial entrance. This was as close as the teleport could get us? I turned to Mack. They couldn't get us any closer. I knew how much tunnel lay between here and the entrance we'd need to access the inner security ring. Mack looked at Delight. Ask her, they're not my operators. Delight gave him a sour look and then turned to me. The complex is shielded. It doesn't show up on any kind of scan, which is why when you go in there, you're going to check for a program that can tell outside scans what to see, given even the ones we use for density and certain metal types are giving back normal ground. I am? You are, just as soon as you get us through the outer airlock. The outer airlock. I remembered that. We need gas masks and suits, I said. Delight shook her head even as she pulled her mask out of her pouch, and Mac and Tens echoed her movement. No time for suits, she said. You'll just have to work fast. Right. I didn't bother arguing with her. Of course I'd have to work fast. That had been a given as soon as she'd said I'd have to open the airlock. Fine, whatever. I led the way into the tunnel, hoping that I'd be able to access the outer security periphery as soon as we got into the airlock proper. Getting through the outer door was as easy as Bendigo had made it look the last time. And, just like last time, the doors locked fast and gas came hissing out through the ceiling as soon as we were in the chamber itself. Except that this time the gas was green, right from the word go, and Delight, Mac, and Tens gave me the sort of looks that said they'd screwed up. Fantastic. I went wireless and found I'd have to get the door open before I could locate the outer security periphery. Glancing up at the gas, I went for the keypad, taking off the outer casing and stripping my jack's lead to the wires. Then I did a fast fuse direct to the chip and hacked the combination. The second the door started to slide open, the gas stopped, and I heard some high-powered motors drawing the gas back into the ceiling. I wondered briefly where it exhausted to, and then decided I didn't care. I just led the way through the door, leaving the jack dangling from what I'd left of the keypad. This time, when I tried to find the net for the external security periphery, I did. It even let me in, which made me feel suspicious where I might have otherwise felt grateful. The thing was, I knew a security patrol had gone missing, and I knew the security system in the outer airlock had been adjusted, and I knew there were only two people down here that could have got the job done, unless... I turned to Agent Delight. Have our techs accessed these systems? Sure, she said. First thing we did, but I don't think they're in it now. I kept moving down the corridor, asking questions as I went. Why not? Well, we can't access it outside the complex. Uh-huh, because I knew that already. So we had an outpost in each section. Uh-huh. And I didn't sound impressed. Why hadn't she told me that up front? We sent the patrol down when the outposts went dark. Behind me, Mac groaned. Delight ignored him. So you see, none of our people will be in the system because we're not letting anyone back down here until we're sure we're not going to lose any more of them. Is that why it's just us? Mac wanted to know. Pretty much. She knows the area, you're her supervisor, Tens is your 2IC, and I make sure Odyssey's interests are kept central. Real nice, I thought, but I didn't say it out loud. Instead, I asked the next question that came to mind. Where was the outpost located for the outer security periphery? The what? These tunnels. Opposite the airlock you mapped to the next layer. How? We used a cutter. Why didn't you use your excavation for the teleport drop? It would have been closer. Because the patrol we sent down to investigate it disappeared, and we lost contact with them the minute they entered. She paused and waited. There was more. There had to be more. And we can't see the excavation anymore. You what? That was Mac, but Delight didn't miss a beat. It's gone. The whole lot. Not a sign on the sensors. No connections in or out. I need to check it out before I send a replacement team down. I snorted, and Delight glared at me. So you don't really know what's missing or not? I asked, and there was a short pause before Delight replied. No, she said. and both Mac and Tens made sounds of exasperation. When I knew the entrance to the second security layer was just ahead, I slowed my pace and dropped back to the rest. Can any of you reach your ship or the ops center? I asked, because I could, but I wasn't sure about them. It would depend on just how much tinkering had been done to the security system here. Now that you mention it, Delight said, just as Tens swore. No, Mac replied. Do any of you have access to the network here? I asked. No, and this time it was a chorus. Ping me. When they'd each pinged my implant and I'd ascertained that we could talk on our own internal net, I sent each of them a link to the network we were standing in, and then secured a section of my implant and connected them to the bridge on Mack's ship and the ops center for the Odyssey ops center in Bastion's warehouse. Right, I said. Now try. Once each of them had confirmed their connections, I motioned Delight to the front. Take us to where your outpost should be. I had no doubt she had been among those who'd set it up, in which case she knew its layout better than I did. Delight must have thought the same thing because she didn't argue. I remembered the ghoul clones I'd met down here before, and I pulled up the map provided by the system. I was both relieved and uneasy by the complete absence of signals on the map, apart from our own, and even they puzzled me. When had we appeared in the map? It made me wish I'd been paying more attention when coming through the airlock. Cutter, Mac's voice intruded. What is it? We're on the security map, I told him, and I don't know why. Show me. So I sent the map to the three of them. Anything else? That was Tens. The ghoul clones used to show up on the map, I said. It was how I knew they were there. I'm not seeing anything now. We killed them all, said Delight. She'd stopped moving ahead of us and returned. Your map should be a blank when it comes to anything but us moving through it. It is. Good. Then let's not waste any more time then, shall we? This time, when she moved off up the tunnel, the rest of us followed. She stopped when she reached the airlock leading to the inner security periphery, but instead of turning toward it, she turned away from it, as though searching the opposite wall for something. It should be right here, she said, as we came alongside her, and she reached out and touched the unbroken line of plascrete. There should be a door, and I should be able to feel observation windows. She slapped the wall as though trying to demonstrate what wasn't there, and her hand shot straight through. I was figuring it should have at least stopped on the front of a door hidden by the illusion, but then I took a closer look at the coding. Tens was quicker. He reached out and yanked Delight away from the gap just as half a dozen pairs of hands came through the wall. I figured some of those were reaching out through the glassless observation windows, even as Mac started shooting into the not-so-solid plascrete. My guess is that he was judging where their heads were by the level of their hands. Each time he fired, a pair of hands stopped stretching out of the wall. Delight had also pulled her blaster by the time Tens had her away from their persistent grasp. Get the inner door open, Mac ordered. Tens, drop that illusion. Tens fell back with me, letting Mac and Delight form a barrier between us and the first humanoid form that shambled out of the wall toward us. It didn't get very far. Mac put 3 shots into its head in rapid succession, and I realized he'd been over the footage in my implant. Should have known. I went to work on opening the door to the airlock between this and the next section of the complex, while Tens did whatever he needed to do to get the faux section of wall to disappear. We managed it, just as Delight and Mac got tired of waiting for more attackers to appear and move through the area from which they'd emerged. Mac nudged one of the dead with the toe of his boot as he passed. These your people? He asked, despite the fact the uniform should have been a dead giveaway. Yes. Delight didn't sound amused. She led the way through the gaping hole in the wall to the small tactical center beyond. The computers there still hummed, their screens glowing with muted light, numbers and figures still scrolling over them. It was Mac who reached out and pulled her back before she'd gone more than a few steps toward the closest one. She resisted his initial pull, but he closed his hand more tightly over her shoulder, murmuring, "The walls." I followed the direction of his pointing finger and saw what he meant at the same time as Delight did. She froze, and I dove back into the net around us. Tens, I heard my disembodied voice say, and he joined me inside the security network. What are we looking for? A node, something like this. And I showed him how the last defensive node had looked in the simulated landscape into which we'd stepped. It didn't take us long to find it, but Ten stopped me before I could touch it. It looks like it's dormant, he said. Let's leave it that way. I wanted to say like hell it was dormant, but I shrugged instead. Sure, I said, and started to walk away from the node. Tens walked with me, and we both glanced back at the same time. The node was following us. Oh, crap. We stopped, and Mack's voice intruded on us. You need to open your eyes, Cutter. But Tens intervened. No, she doesn't. In the virtual space in which we stood, Tens passed me a flamer. In reality, it was a fast-acting virus, just strings of code. But here it presented as a weapon for burning out the threat. I watched as the node came closer, rising out of the landscape like a wave and threatening to engulf us. Will it spread? I asked, hefting the flamer to indicate I was referring to the virus. Only to whatever's within the node, he said, and we need to hurry. I didn't ask him why. I might not be able to focus on the real at the same time as I was focused on the virtual, but I figured he or Mac could fill me in on what was happening outside. After all, what was happening on the inside was bad enough. 3, 2, 1, Ten said, and we fired, pouring flame into the heart of the wave and flinching as small clods of earth and water fell down around us. The wave dissipated in seconds and Tens and I surfaced from the net. I opened my eyes to find Mac and Delight staring at us. Neither of them said anything for a long moment, and then Mac looked at me. Get the door, Cutter. I didn't bother asking which door he meant. There was only one door we needed to access, and I'd been through it before. It's unlocked, I told him. Good. Lead the way. I stifled a sigh of impatience and did as he asked.